So this is now episode 3 of the Nerds by Screenlight podcast. And we come at last to something that has been 30 years in the making. No, it is not Jurassic Park. That was 65 million years in the making. This is Ghostbusters Afterlife, the review. My name is Aaron.
My name is James.
This is the moment as a 39-year-old I have been waiting for my entire life.
That is a little strong there, sir.
No hyperbole. I'm a ghost head until the end. So stick with us, hold on, and buckle up because the Ghostbusters Afterlife review is coming up next. And fair warning, it is spoiler zone.
Yeah,
the spoilers are going to be rapid fire. It's going to be like a spoiler battleground. It's going to be spoiler Normandy.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen it yet, or if you care about spoilers stuff like, just turn us off now.
Just hit that pause switch. Go see the movie. Come back to us and see if you agree with us, because the moment you've been waiting for, or I've been waiting for 30 years, comes up next on Nerds by Screenlight. And that's a little bit hyperbole. Here we go.
Get nerdy with me. Talk nerdy to me. Get nerdy with me. All I really need for you to do is just please.
I get stoked.
Talk to me. Talk nerdy to me.
Okay.
Get the big sigh out of the way. Shake yourself out.
Shake it off, as Taylor Swift would say. I loved Afterlife. I absolutely adored it. And I don't care what the critics say because there is...
And you're waving your finger at me because you know I'm coming critical.
Here's the thing. I have looked on Rotten Tomatoes, and the overwhelming big critic score is low.
Yeah.
But the audience review score
is high.
Is like 96%. That was like a week ago. There have been a lot of people out there who have said that some part of this, and we're not going to get into this controversy. I'm just going to acknowledge that it is out there without digging into it. Some have suggested that some members of the media are trying to kind of downgrade Afterlife because of the snafu controversies that enveloped Ghostbusters 2016.
Oh, the bomb. Yeah.
Right. So part of what, and this, there is truth in this, is that when Ghostbusters 2021 was announced, stars from Ghostbusters 2016 did come out and kind of were mad.
Yes.
In since deleted tweets. And so there is that element at play here. And some have expressed concerns that some members of the media are trying to kind of downplay Afterlife and its quality and downplay people going to see the movie.
Because it is important to bring up, as like there was that big controversy of 2016.
Right.
And they built that up so big in the media before the movie even came out.
Right. And so now we're here in 2021. Ghostbusters Afterlife is here, and I loved it. It's been accused, and you made this. We can lean into your criticism in a moment. There's been accusations that it's all fan service, that it's da-da-da.
Yeah.
So we'll start with the critical lens, which is what I think is going to come to the table with, and then we'll bring in.
Well, no, you can actually hear my. You want to hear my? I say go watch this movie. It's good.
Yeah.
It is a good movie.
Yeah.
But it has flaws.
Okay.
So that's like I take off the lens of fandom and go like, all right.
Oh, I keep mine on.
What am I really looking at here? Well, this is why. Like, a lot of people got upset with me after The Force Awakens came out, and I went to go see it the first time where I had friends, family, everybody around me. And I remember sitting there in that theater, and like, my dad got up, and he looks like, well, because everybody else is hyped up about Force Awakens, and I was sitting there in the theater. My family can vouch, my friends, I was sitting there shaking my head going like, no.
No.
And everybody makes fun of me because I take things too seriously.
Yeah. But
they don't get this. There's the side of me that goes like, yeah. And I was super happy with some things.
Yeah.
And then there's a side of me that looks at things deeper and goes like, no, you did a disservice to us here.
Yeah.
And so this movie has good stuff all the way through. Yeah. And doesn't have a lot of the no. Yeah. All right. I'll give you, I will say that.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a lot of the no.
You're
and
not,
a lot of
not,
bad stuff.
Not Meghan Trainor with the no.
Yeah.
My name is no.
Yeah.
I am from no.
No,
the answer is
just,
no.
This movie is a good movie. And it is fun all the way through.
All right.
But there's little things in there I'm like, come on, stop.
All right, well, let's start. We'll start. We're going to have to do this extemporaneously because we don't have notes for this one.
Yeah, we don't.
I just threw us into the mixing pot here, and we're just going to roll.
It's helpful when we can just keep pause and go back and whatever the movie.
Right. We can't do that because it's still in theaters.
Yeah.
And they haven't sold it online yet. So it starts with Spengler, and the visage of Spengler is driving.
Well, unless you've really seen the first movies,
Yeah.
you don't know.
You don't.
It is just
You're introduced to
old
this
man in shadows.
Yeah, old man in shadows. And so he has a ghost trap, and he crashes the truck, and then he's running to a farmhouse, and he tries to do this trap mechanic system, and it doesn't work. And so he ends up going into the house, putting the trap underneath some puzzle floorboards, and sitting in the chair, and then
remember, we don't really know what he's doing at the start.
Right.
With that pedal that he's pushing.
Yeah.
He throws that switch.
Yep.
And he pumps that pedal.
And it doesn't work.
And nothing works. We don't find out what's underneath that field till later.
Right. So in that moment, then Gozer's the chair that happened in the first Ghostbusters.
Yep. They were a callback.
They come out and they trap him. Now, what is happening here is he has hidden. So what you don't know is that he has trapped one of the two beasts, the Keymaster or the Gatekeeper. I can't remember which. He's trapped one of them. And for Gozer...
I think it's Zool.
Zool? Okay.
Because Zool usually comes out before Vince Clortho, who's the other one.
Vince Clortho is the Gatekeeper?
I think so.
Okay. And
Keymaster, Gatemeter, I mixed that up, but I remember Zool and Vince Clortho as their
Zool
names.
is the Gatekeeper.
Yeah.
Vince Clortho is the Keymaster. Okay.
Yeah.
So he traps... So for Gozer to be able to be fully formed and come out and do his thing, he has to have his minions, the Keymaster and the Gatekeeper.
Which they really don't... They kind of spell that out in the first movie.
Right. But they really go in deep here.
Yeah, and this one they do explain it.
You figure out,
you
that's
need them
why.
both, and then Gozer can come.
Yep. Then fully formed Gozer is on the attack. So what happens is Spengler sacrifices himself.
Yeah.
And doesn't give up the location of where the trapped ghost is or the trapped beast is.
Yeah, exactly.
And he dies of a cardiac arrest, we find out later. But we flash over to now.
Which I find kind of weird. See, this is where I'm going to punch little holes in the story.
Yeah.
When Dana got dragged away by the chair, she got possessed by Zool.
Right.
When Egon gets dragged away by the chair, he's just dead?
They weren't trying to they weren't trying to possess him. They were trying to find out where the other one was. Because even if they possessed Egon, they wouldn't know where to look because they wouldn't have Egon's knowledge. Because remember, there is no Dana, only Zool.
Yeah.
So she doesn't have. She's possessing, but she has no. At least how I read the original.
Yeah, but the thing is, they don't do anything to explain that. This is you yourself.
Yeah. I'm drawing
putting that in there.
I'm drawing the conclusion based
on.
But
the thing is, by your based audience member isn't going to do that.
Well, I'm smarter than your average audience member. I'll tell you that.
I'll tell you what.
Anyway.
Where's your spittoon in here? You need to hack and spit when you do that.
But I am from Montana. I'm a cowboy kid.
So I'm just saying it's one of those things where if I get it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like a little thing where no, he should have been kind of.
Well,
that's a possession thing.
The other additional layer is that the Gatekeeper, whichever one is attacking him, knows that it's Spengler. They've wrestled the original Ghostbusters went to battle
they
with
kind
these
of
guys.
failed that though.
Okay. How so?
Do you want me to go in it? Gozer doesn't recognize them at the end.
But he doesn't acknowledge it.
I mean, they kind of glossed over it, but I'm just kind of like...
No, so when they cross the streams at the end, okay, we're going full on spoilers, but at the end when they cross the streams, what does Gozer do?
It starts pulling them apart.
Breaks the streams because Gozer remembers how it happened before. I think Gozer
because
does.
if you want to make that implication, you need to have Gozer recognize them. She should have been like, you, or something like that. Then it would be like, gotcha,
right?
We get it. Because the other thing too is, remember, she never got hit with any streams in the first movie.
Oh, it was in the whatever.
They only shot her. They didn't shoot her with the streams. They shot the gate to pull everything back in and close it in the first one.
But they didn't shoot her.
We forgot that in our episode on Ghostbusters. But you guys are going to get that now. But it's in the first movie, Gozer never gets hit. She dodges their beams, jumps away from them.
Yeah.
And then she chooses the form of the Destructor.
So
and then we get Stay Puffed.
So she doesn't choose the form of the Destructor this time around yet.
Yeah, we didn't get to that point.
But here's the thing. So you could theorize that the reason why she doesn't choose the form of the Destructor or make them choose is because she's on a vengeance mission.
Maybe.
To destroy the Spengler line.
Maybe.
Because she goes after Phoebe.
Well, Phoebe was the first one to fight her.
Well, Phoebe and
shoots her,
mom.
Yeah, the shoot her with the stuff and
Right.
prove that she's fighting him or whatever, and has something that can affect her a little bit because it does
Right.
kind of like pushing her back and all that kind of stuff, whatever. But it's like she never gets hit with the beams, so she doesn't know.
Yeah.
And she doesn't show that she recognizes them really. Like it should have been like when Ray gives his little speech,
Right.
which
Are
is
you
great.
a god?
Yeah, it should have been one of those things like she shouldn't have gone and said that.
Yeah.
She shouldn't have like whatever. It should have been like you.
Yeah.
Because she recognized them, and then we kind of get the hint. But Gozer herself should have recognized them,
Yeah.
and like these are the guys that stopped her.
Yeah.
But they don't give you that. They don't
Right.
give you that beat.
Right.
It could have just been a simple you,
Right.
and bam.
I'll accept that criticism through the lens of my slightly cracked now lens of fandom. But to get back to the beginning, so we fit, and here's something that's kind of fun. So obviously Spengler dies.
Yeah.
Egon Spengler is dead. Now the actual individual who represented him also died in 2014.
Yeah, it's 2014.
And that story in itself is a heartbreaking one because Bill Murray and him did not get along well for a long time. And
Wasn't it like it was Groundhog Day that broke him?
I think so,
wasn't it? Yeah.
And to be fair, the criticism of Bill Murray suggests that it was Bill Murray's fault.
Yes.
It was not our Harold Ramis's fault. Bill Murray is a notoriously hard actor to work for and with.
He has a reputation of being a jerk.
Yeah, and beyond that, which words we obviously won't use in the podcast, but he's kind of like Chevy Chase. He has become kind of like his legend has gone to his head. And Chevy Chase and him are both legendary comics and legendary actors on their own. But when you let that hubris and that ego get to your head, it tends to lead to pretty destructive behavior within relationships. And Murray and in some ways Chase has done even worse. But
I would say Chase is probably the worst when you hear all the details.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, the cast of Community does not like Chevy Chase.
Yeah.
It's
like how do you sink that ship so badly?
Yep.
One man.
Yeah. Chevy Chase.
Especially when it's making you popular again.
Yep. And giving you a renewed visual kind of engagement in the zeitgeist of today.
Yeah.
So the real life story of what happens between Ramis and Murray and is true because it did go sour. And I think what I like about what this movie does is that as we go through the film and Phoebe makes a phone call to Dan Aykroyd's character and he explains, it went bad, it went south, it was rough. I like how they use the real life implications of their relationship.
Oh yeah.
Because it feels real. It feels like, okay, there's some weight in here because they do. These guys, when they talk about Harold Ramis, they do get emotional. They do get misty-eyed because he was a solid actor. He was a solid creator. He was a solid guy.
And he was their friend.
Yeah.
Like you look at interviews and stuff with him, he is a kind, gentle, nice person who just happens to be an ace like director and writer.
Yep. And then you have the situation where Bill Murray and I think Bill Murray has spoken openly about, that was kind of jerky of me to do.
He admitted it, like it's his fault.
Yeah, but they did have a moment where they were able to reunite before he died, and they were actually able to conversation.
They mend the bridges, and they were friends for a little while at the end, and then
he passed.
Yeah, he passed.
So the real world story, I love how it weaves in here. The strong players in this movie. There is only one.
Phoebe.
Yeah, McKenna Grace
is fantastic.
Girl is incredible. And I don't often say that about actors or child actors, but her, just how she breathes life into this character is fantastic.
Yep.
And she's not a Mary Sue. She has some weaknesses. Her mom and her relationship is not strong.
Yeah.
It is messed up. The character that I wish that we had more was Finn Wolfhard's character, because I don't even remember his character's name.
Me neither. Trevor? I don't know.
Trevor. Yeah, there it is. Trevor. The problem is that he comes from the Stranger Things history and the Stranger Things baggage.
It's like, we're going to drag in this famous guy from this other series that is total nostalgia about the 80s and throw him into this movie that is nostalgia about the 80s. Yeah. And he doesn't really fit.
No. Now, the guy who does fit in is Podcast.
Yes.
And I adore Podcast. He's not as strong as McKenna Grace, don't get me wrong. But Podcast is beyond.
Well, he's
brilliant.
our Ray Stantz.
Yep, he has that childlike innocence that we talked about in the Ghostbusters podcast episode. Is that he is generally unafraid.
Yep.
When she tries out the beam, he's not terrified of what she's done with the trying. He's like, "Whoa!" woo! When they meet the ghost in the industrial complex, he takes out the death whistle and says, "I'm going to do it." And she's just like, "What are you doing?" And he does it. It doesn't affect the ghost. The ghost spits metal at them and then runs away. But like he's genuinely an intriguing character
and he's curious about all this stuff, which is why I'm surprised. It's like he should have known about all the Ghostbusters. Like, 'cause we established the first and second movie in this universe are real events that happened.
The director, Jason Reitman, has actually acknowledged, because people were asking, like, well, what about Ghostbusters 2? You don't really acknowledge it aside from the occult shop. And Jason Reitman said, look, no, Ghostbusters 2 exists. It happened in this universe. We could only talk about so much. And he's right. You can't, you try and cover Ghostbusters 1 and Ghostbusters 2 with fan nostalgia in a movie, it's going to get clunky. And so they had their choice of what storyline to tell. And I think Gruberson's memory obviously is on the first one, and I like Paul Rudd. He is the sexiest man alive.
Mm-hmm.
In this movie, it's kind of, I think he's there in service of Callie, their relationship, and he eventually becomes. They eventually become the Keymaster, and the what?
Vince Clortho. He becomes Vince Clortho.
He takes over Rick Moranis'.
I keep saying it because everybody keeps forgetting. Everybody remembers Zool.
Yeah, Zool
and Gozer.
Yeah.
But everybody forgets the other dog's name, which is Vince Clortho. So that's why I keep saying it like that, folks. So I'm doing it on purpose.
They get together, but their chemistry isn't bad, actually. I really enjoyed those two characters and their kind of clunky, nerdy,
weird, awkward
romance thing that was going on. I really appreciated it because it did lend itself to kind of, again, that deep breath in the movie. We need those moments where we're like, okay. And
honestly, this is one of those things I wish they would have given us more.
Yeah.
I actually wish they would have made the mom a bit more dysfunctional than she was.
Right.
Like, I wanted to see her a little bit just kind of like more off the rails, kind of falling apart. And it's the kids doing the real holding together here.
Right.
But we don't get that.
No. Well, again, the danger with a movie that you're trying to parlay to both kids and adults is you don't want to go too dark.
Yeah.
You don't want to go into a territory where the kids are like, okay,
I agree with you. But
this is boring. I think there's ways to do it. I feel, gotta use that word in therapy. I feel like there was a healthy enough balance in it, because you do see her in the kitchen table, her head's down, a glass of wine's beside her, and she's trying to sort through all this stuff.
Yep.
And there is that element of, okay, mom's really overwhelmed.
Yeah, mom's overwhelmed. But it's like I wanted them to put a little more beats of like being kind of more dysfunctional than that.
Right.
But then also, like, you could have his character be like, oh, and kind of spurring her on to do some other stuff. And then you would have had a bigger bond between them for our events at the end kind of thing where, you know, they're a little bit more lovey-dovey towards each other.
Right.
So it's like, you know, give us a little bit more. You don't have to spend a whole ton of time, but you can give us like three more minutes or something of those two's kind of dynamic going on. Yeah. And maybe also show her trying to save the family a bit more.
Yeah.
Because they don't give you any of that.
Right, because the opening of the movie is her getting her eviction notice and she's on her way out. Like, there's no discussion, there's no negotiations. Those have already happened.
She gets the dirt farm from her dad. And then it's kind of like, what are you doing to try to get yourself out of this pit?
Right. And I think the thing is, she doesn't know. And I think that's the part we'd like to see, where she's just absolutely hopeless. We get the return of Janine Melnitz.
Yep.
She comes back, and I wanted it to be more.
It should have been more.
I felt, and here's the thing. So there's no, I looked it up about a week ago, and I'm sure there's more now, but we don't know who is it Callie? Who's Callie's mom? We know it's Egon Spengler.
Yeah, we never really crossed that threshold. Because think about it, like, me and you are fans of 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Egon doesn't have emotional connections to anybody, really.
In the first one, it's Janine Melnitz.
It's Janine. Well, they're close, but they're not. He's not really.
And then in Ghostbusters 2,
you don't see him doing lovey-dovey stuff.
Right. In Ghostbusters 2, Janine and Rick Moranis' character,
Louis Tully,
are definitely together.
Yep.
And there's a thing there.
Yep.
Now, I feel like in Ghostbusters 2, the reason why that happens is because they're both nerdy, they're both weird, and probably the producers and the writers were like, okay, we'll just shove these two together because it makes sense and it's easy.
Yeah.
I feel like an Egon Spengler, Janine Melnitz relationship dynamic would have. I think that's what this movie was playing at, because Janine Melnitz is the only one from the old crew who still is at the house in the area.
Yeah, taking care of his estate.
Right. And that suggests that
she's. That is a big step for anybody to do.
Right. Well, it suggests that she's been there for a bit. Like, she just didn't drive down from New York. Like, she's been there. And so what I'm curious to know, and this will be a fun thing to do when it comes out, is if there'll be an extended edition DVD
Maybe.
with
Will they build that?
Well, maybe that is a possibility. I have my suspicions. I think that Janine Melnitz is Callie's mom.
Well, I think she would have been more involved with Callie if that was the mom.
Well,
Because
and that's
Janine is not
Right.
the type
Right. But the
to
other thing
just
is-
drop that
because
connection.
She had so
So she can't be the mom.
right, because someone was, but Callie never talks about it.
Yeah,
They're never said about
I
grandma.
I kind of feel a little bit disappointed in that. Where it's like,
Right.
where's grandma?
Yeah.
Bring her up.
Maybe they wanted, maybe the intention was to get us to wonder,
Mhm.
and it wonders us in the wrong place because clearly Callie had a life. When we get down into Egon Spengler's secret little holdout
Yep.
place in the bottom, beneath the
Yeah, who's taking all the photos of her?
right,
Because it's
and
not
how is
Egon.
It, how
'cause
is it
he's not
getting to
there.
Egon? How's it being sent to him?
Yep.
And so somebody is secretly keeping me in the loop. It could be Janine. She could be like
Maybe.
doing, I don't know. So that's a mystery on this movie that I wish that.
We would have had some sort of answer.
But I think this is the beauty, and it could be intentional, it could be unintentional. I think it's intentional. Is it makes you wonder. Is it makes you sit here and go, well, what could it be, or could it be that? Could it be that?
Because it's because you wonder. It's like, who is the woman
Right.
that managed to break
Right.
Egon Spengler out of his brain zone?
Yeah. Or who would allow him to run?
Yeah.
Who gave him permission? Because Callie doesn't talk about, well, mom always said it's about dad.
Yeah.
She's like, no, I hate my father. I never knew him. I never saw him.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's something about that dynamic that deserves more explanation. And maybe, fingers crossed, we'll get it in the sequel.
Yeah, maybe.
I hope we get a sequel. But it's a very interesting, and again, this is the power of writing. Now, whether or not it was intentional or accidental, I think it was intentional because it gets you to wonder. It gets you to think, okay, well, what really happened? What is the story here?
Mm-hmm.
The power of good writing is it not only treats you as smart as you are,
Yep.
but it also says, okay, you're smart. See if you can connect the dots on your own, and whatever you come up with, right, wrong, or indifferent, probably will make sense or have some kind of sense.
Yeah.
But we're not going to give you enough to connect those dots explicitly.
Yeah.
We're going to make you imply.
We're going to put
heck
those
of a lot.
dots kind of like right there.
Right.
You draw that line.
Right. You have fun with that. So I think that's kind of a fun thing. Trevor's not girlfriend. She's there.
Yeah.
She's there kind of to balance.
I feel it was a waste of an actress.
Yeah, because she had some strong stuff. Like we see her at the she's the daughter of the sheriff, obviously,
Yep.
And so she's not really in jail. That there seems to be more there. Like there should have been something more. Like, oh, I'm just here to check on you or something. Or I'm in trouble. My dad put me in jail overnight because I did something wrong, but it isn't really suggested.
Like, what does she find interesting in Finn Wolfhard's
Right.
character?
Right. And she says when they're at the top of that little thing in the movie that he's like, why'd you invite me on? Or she's like, oh, mostly for fun, or mostly whatever she says. And then obviously things happen.
Yep.
So she's almost using him just as like a plaything. Like
Yep.
she's a cat. He's the ball of string. And it does take a turn because I think they do kind of grow closer as the movie goes on. She does turn into a terror dog because
Yep.
the possession shifts from Callie to her. And so that's kind of hilarious. So yeah, she's there, but she's not like, and the rest of those guys who are hanging out with her at the thing they're not sketched out. They're just kind of there.
Yep.
They're your very one-dimensional characters.
Yep. There's just background noise.
Yeah. But the beautiful part about this movie is that it is consistent in its revelation that Egon Spengler is a ghost.
Yes.
Spoiler alert. Well, I've already told you that, so you're not surprised.
Yeah.
But it starts at the beginning of the movie, and there's moments where McKenna Grace's character, Phoebe, is doing something with a chessboard, and the
Yep.
chess pieces are moving overnight, and then eventually they move, and then they're really moving. And it's fascinating to me.
And then here's your PKE meter.
Here's your
and there's that.
She, I think by the time she gets downstairs to the secret place, she has fully acknowledged, without actually saying it,
Yeah.
that Egon, her grandfather,
That's Grandpa
is
helping
guiding her
Yeah.
in ghost form. She doesn't say it. She just believes it.
Yes.
And I think it's a callback to Egon because Egon was smart enough to just accept things that were true.
Yes.
And he was not going to, he looked at it and he quantified it. Okay, it's true. And so in that way, Phoebe is a lot like her grandfather because she looks around, observes, and goes, this is happening, go with it.
Yep.
She doesn't go, wait, what are you? What
it's-
is happening?
Yeah, it is a callback directly to the character of Egon. She is Egon in.
Well, she has the similar glasses, but it's not just that. like the character is written so that you're like, that's a Spengler thing.
Yes.
That's Egon. That's a thing. And it's not like it's
Well, that's what I was going for. It's like, that's Egon in just a child's body, in a way.
But it's not like it's directly copy and pasted.
Yeah, it's not.
It's a Phoebe as I think she's like 13 years old or something like that, 12 years old.
Yeah, something like that.
And so she's playing an Egon-like character, but with her own influences. And as she goes throughout this adventure, like the first time that she goes to battle with the ghost in the Ecto-1, which we're going to come back to the Ecto-1 in a second.
Yeah.
She's confident because she knows her grandfather invented this equipment.
Yes.
So she's not questioning whether or not it works. A lot of what we talked about in the Ghostbusters 2016.
Well, remember, she does get that little moment where she puts it together.
Yeah.
And she was kind of like, well, how did you figure all this out? And then like that lamp just kind of turns and there's all those degrees on the wall.
Yeah.
And stuff. She's like, all right, I get it. You're a genius.
Yeah.
And then she never doubts him after that.
Yeah, because he provided the evidence. He said, well, look, here we go. This is me. And so, yeah, she's confident because she trusts in what he's saying. She trusts in the ghost. But she doesn't tell her mom,
Nope,
Grandpa's ghost is visiting me.
no.
And I think that speaks to their relationship. People be like, oh, why didn't, because the relationship is broken.
Yeah.
She even says it in her dinner date with Gruberson, like, my daughter, I can't figure out. There's something between us and the thing that's between them is Egon.
Yeah.
And the fact that her mother never told her the real truth. And I think that even before Phoebe found out, Phoebe suspected and felt like there was a piece missing, because if a mom acknowledged that Egon existed to her daughter would be like, well, then what else? Why am I
missing?
What am I missing? And why am I like? Why am I not like you? And why am I like somebody else? That would have brought that connection, because then she went like, well, I'm like my grandfather.
Well, that's why we get that nice like thing where she discovers the YouTube videos and stuff, and it's kind of like, oh, that's my grandfather?
Yeah. Why didn't you tell me my grandfather was Egon Spengler?
Yeah.
She says that line to her mother, why didn't you tell me? And there is that conflict between them, because I think mom is worried that if she does acknowledge Egon Spengler and the traits that have passed on to her daughter, then the distance is going to grow even further.
Yes.
And the fear that, okay, well, this distance that's between me and my grandfather that I never acknowledged, that's going to visit me again. So I'm going to shelter my child from that influence, because I don't want that to happen again.
Because it also could represent like a flaw in Callie herself.
Yeah.
With trying to reconcile who her father was.
Yeah.
Because it's like you see, you have all these historical records of him because he was a public figure.
Yeah.
Where he is he's a big brainy nerd, whatever, but he's a good, upstanding person.
Yeah.
But then he just disappears on her.
Right.
So that just amplifies her hate, because it's like, you treat everybody else way better than me.
Right.
Why?
Yeah.
And she doesn't get that answer until, well, whatever.
He's gone long and dead.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to kind of see how that works. So the Ecto-1, along with all the other equipment, has been moved to the dirt farm.
Yep.
I have a deep and abiding love for the Ecto-1.
I know.
I adore it. It is one of my favorite. If I could buy a hearse and make it into the Ecto-1 and drive it as my daily driver,
because it was a Frankenstein car to begin with.
Yes,
anyway, yeah,
it was.
It's a unique thing, folks. That's not a model you can just buy.
Yeah, they built most of this stuff anyway. So the Ecto-1, Finn Wolfhard's character Trevor finds it, doesn't know what it is. Well, we know what it is, and he starts to get it started. What's interesting is Egon Spengler's ghost intervenes, I think, at least once with Trevor.
Yes,
he connects the wires in the car.
Yeah, he helps start the car.
Now, Trevor doesn't know that it happens because he doesn't see it happening. And so that speaks to the engagement that Egon has with his grandson versus the engagement he has with Phoebe. The engagement with Phoebe is much more closer, is much more visceral.
Because you notice he doesn't really step in and do anything with the family until they're there for a little while. Yeah. So I think it's Egon, who will believe. Right. Who's going to be the one that's going to step through and can follow through on what I was doing here. Right. And so that's obviously Phoebe. Yep. Now the boy is more interested in girls and stuff like that or whatever. So it's kind of like, well,
the first thing they do when they arrive at the shop, he like gets out the car and goes fills an application to try and talk to her.
Yeah.
And they're like, and everyone's figured it out. They're like, okay, new guy.
Yeah, like they mock him really good.
Yeah. And I think that is what any teenage boy would do when you see a pretty girl. You're like, oh, well, I'm going to go try and impress her. Well, I fill an application. And of course, Trevor has no game.
Yeah,
he fails miserably. But it is kind of, I do appreciate that element, because we can all recognize, okay, well, yeah, all right, Trevor, nice try, but no, you're not gonna win this one. Again, it's almost a callback to Venkman and his attempts at kind of playing the.
Yes, I mean that's a good way to put it. As like he's kind of like our Venkman in this movie,
right? Where he eventually does believe.
Yeah, he eventually does believe. The potential is there.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing is too is like you're not going to try to work on that hunk of junk,
right?
Unless you believe you can bring it back to life.
Well, and there's a scene that's missing. So in the trailer, McKenna Grace, Phoebe's character, says to him, "Oh, you chose the old Chevy or whatever." And he's like, "Well, it's the only one that had an engine." That scene is not present in the movie I saw.
Yeah, that's true.
So there is pieces of this movie I think that are probably either ended up on the cutting room floor or in the extended edition. Hopefully we'll get to see.
Yeah, hopefully we do get an extended edition.
So then, so he starts it and he takes off. And here, I wish we could see the more of why he loves it, because he is absolutely having a ball driving that.
Well, I mean, because the other thing you have to admit is like why he loves this old thing so much.
Yeah.
Because a modern day kid.
Yeah.
Is not going to love a hunk of junk like that.
Well, so here's the thing. Though.
I mean, granted, he does get freedom because the family has no money and whatever and whatnot, and then he fixes this car, and now he's got freedom and whatever. But it's like there needs to be a little bit more into that car.
So here's what I think is because that I can't remember if it was Ghostbusters 1 or 2, but they did talk about putting a pretty supercharged engine in that thing.
I think it was 2.
So, yeah. So when he's driving that thing fast.
Oh, yeah.
And what I love about the Ecto 1 is we actually see it get some air.
Yeah.
It does jump a ditch, and we see the Ecto 1 go airborne.
And that thing, like, look at the amount of equipment and extra things they put into it, the gunner seat and all that stuff like that. I was like, okay, that car is massively heavy. The engine it would take to leap that car is monstrous.
So they jump it. So here's the thing about the gunner seat. The gunner seat was not in Ghostbusters 1 or Ghostbusters 2.
No, it's not.
It was in the real Ghostbusters cartoon series.
Yes, I remember that.
That came out.
That's why some people were shocked. They're like, where does this come from? And I was like,
they're
did you watch the real
acknowledging the real Ghostbusters as canon.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because Spengler's character is not voiced by Ramis.
No.
It's voiced by a guy who did his best to sound like Ramis.
Yeah.
He did a pretty good job. But that
well, I mean, come on. Even in that series, it's kind of weird because they had Ernie Hudson went out for the role of Winston Zeddemore in the animated thing.
Yeah.
And they didn't give it to him. They gave it to Arsenio Hall.
What?
That is a real fact. So it's like you had the actual
actor who did the voice.
Winston Zeddemore, willing to play Winston Zeddemore.
But you had to get a bigger name than him.
Instead, you put in Arsenio Hall. Why?
Well,
and there's a lot of goofy stuff that happened in that animated series where it's like some of the characters don't make too much sense, whatever. But I mean, I'm happy they pulled something cool from there.
Yeah.
Because I think that's also where they got the eyeball ghost.
Yeah. It came from the series.
Because that's what I remember.
Yeah.
But it was also one of those things like Venkman in the animated series is way more suave and more action person. Like, you know, look at what they did to Ray Stantz. They turned him more doughy and weird.
Okay.
So I'm kind of like,
not so much.
Yeah. So it's like I did enjoy it as a kid.
Okay.
But
all right,
they didn't stay as true to what we established in the movies as they should have.
All right, so back on track. The Ecto 1 is back in action in town.
It's alive.
And Muncher is on the loose, and they're trying to find him. And they find him as they're rolling through town.
Oh, the one thing I want to say about the Ecto 1.
Yeah.
We don't need as many shots of a license plate.
Yes, we do.
No, we don't.
Blasphemy.
When he's working on the car, we establish what car this is. But then in every other shot where they're even near the Ecto 1, you get a shot of the license plate and it's panning over and whatever.
So
it's
you want to know something interesting? So there's a license plate reproduction company that I've been following on Facebook for years, and they actually were contracted to reproduce that license plate. It was top secret. They finally were able to publish that news after the film released. So
can you buy them?
Yeah, you can buy them from them. Yeah, you can get, but they're not cheap. But you can get Ecto 1 plates.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's kind of fun.
But so it's just one of those things I want to point out. Is just like we know what car this is.
Oh, come on. The Ecto 1 is awesome.
We know what car this is.
We'll agree to disagree on the Ecto 1 situation.
You don't need to beat it into our heads.
So the moment with Muncher is really cool because they're rolling through town, right? And it's quiet, and they're looking for him. And, you know, Finn Wolfhard's character's like, well, what are you looking for? And then they see Muncher, and he's munching on a fire what is it called?
Fire hydrant.
There we go. I was going to say fire extinguisher. That's not what it is. I'm munching on a fire hydrant. And what's funny is they come to a halt and they see him. The gunner seat comes out, and then Muncher looks up, like locks eyes with them. And then he does something that I appreciate is he unscrews the water to try and like distract him or whatever, and then takes off.
And then takes off. Yeah.
I love it how it's not just like, ooh, gotta go, boom. It's like, hey, choo.
Yeah.
And so that kind of like added little moment there is like, it's kind of almost a Slimer-esque kind of moment, even though we don't have Slimer because Slimer's in New York. And this is a ghost from the Midwest.
And that's a lot of people were kind of upset about that fact because they're like, we're Slimer.
Well, Jason Reitman actually said, well, we're not in New York. That's where Slimer is. Slimer's a New York ghost. We needed to have a Midwestern ghost in Muncher. Seems like an industrial ghost, so we needed him.
Yeah, somebody that eats metal.
So the Ecto-1 kicks into gear, gunner seat, McKenna Grace, full-on stream, trying to capture him, blows up half of the town.
Yeah. Actually, I'd say this sequence is actually a great sequence.
Oh, I love it so much because the Ecto-1's in motion. Like, it's not, like, taking it nice and slow. Like, Finn Wolfhard is learning how to drive. He's still not that great at it.
That's the one thing. It's like this is another hole.
Yeah.
Where did he learn to drive?
Well,
because they say he failed his driver's test.
Well, he's been practicing in the fields. Remember when he got the Ecto-1 running, he was driving around the fields. He still doesn't know really how to drive really well because he's still learning.
Yeah.
But it's cool because it shows us like the gunner seat, which we know comes from the Extreme Ghostbusters television series or real Ghostbusters show. We also have the trap on wheels.
That was kind of cool.
I loved that. And it was cool because it represented the ability for the show to go mobile.
Yeah.
Because you're not crowded in New York where you could just go block by block and hunt down your ghosts. This is the wide open Midwest.
Oh yeah.
There's not a lot of places where you can like hide in the.
And I like it that they made it like a clunky old RC car from the 80s. Even the controller is a giant clunky like it is a brick.
Right. Well, obviously, like Egon Spengler, he kind of fastens things together with whatever he has around him.
Exactly.
And so making that was his solution to the problem. And I suspect that RC comes out of the Ghostbusters before he stole all the stuff to the Midwest. So that may have been a part of their previous adventures where they had that RC car and they were using it as a trap.
Because they do say it's like there were ghosts for a while.
Yeah.
And then it did just peter out.
Yeah.
Disappeared.
And something happened and that is just a thing. So they chase it and they don't get him, or they capture him. They get him and they finally get him in the trap. It took a bit, but then the police obviously arrest them. They confiscate all the materials, and the one phone call Phoebe gets, she makes to raise a cult bookstore.
Yeah. Well, not raise a cult bookstore. She doesn't know she's calling him. She thinks she's calling the Ghostbusters hotline.
Right, but she's actually calling the he kept the number.
He kept the number. Yeah.
And this moment is. I love Dan Aykroyd, and I love how he's playing his character. It is absolutely, and people will scream fan service all day long, but you can hear in him the emotion about what happened. And when he says Egon Spengler can go die, he means it.
Yeah.
And then when she says, well, he died 2 weeks ago, and he's like, oh. And that shifts the moment where he really starts to share with her, this is what happened, this is how it works.
My issue is this?
Yeah.
All right. I call you up randomly out of the nowhere.
Yeah.
I'm an unknown number.
Yeah.
An unknown caller.
Yeah.
I'm going to sit there and just spill this huge giant exposition on you.
Remember,
and tell you
childlike enthusiasm, childlike innocence.
That's not here anymore. He is a bitter, cynical man at this point.
Perhaps, but maybe there's
so
elements.
He's changed.
Maybe his elements is.
But you're not going to sit there and talk about all that stuff that he does to some unknown person. Like she should have said who she was earlier.
But then we wouldn't have wouldn't have the weight of when he hangs up and that's the last thing she says. So he has to then track it back and find her.
Yeah, but I mean that's fine. But I'm saying it's like you don't to random caller.
Right.
To like the car warranty people that are calling you up, you're not gonna spill all those beans.
He's like it's a 12-year-old girl.
That doesn't work.
He's like, all right, again that childlike innocence. Maybe,
but you're not gonna tell the truth. Oh yeah, someone could just go die. Come on, Aaron, you're better than this.
No, but you saying he was a bitter old man, so that bitterness.
Yeah, that's true.
Took away any sympathy.
But the thing is, you don't just say all that stuff.
Right.
To some random unknown caller.
We'll agree to disagree on that particular plot point. But I love that scene. I love that segment.
It's still good.
And I love how it ends because the sheriff hangs it up right as she says, I'm Egon Spengler's granddaughter.
Yeah.
Click. And he's like, wait, hello? And so that moment is brilliant because it sets us up to be like, okay, is he coming? What's going to go on?
Yeah.
I mean, we know from the trailer they're coming.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is the nice thing about that trailer when that came out a couple of weeks before the movie actually premiered, is it did let us know, okay, the boys are back.
They will be appearing in some.
They will be appearing in some format.
Yeah.
So then, obviously, all hell breaks loose because Gruberson gets possessed in a Walmart scene, which...
this scene is where they jump the shark.
I liked it, okay?
Okay. This is a small town. Why do they have, like, the largest, fanciest, nicest, most beautiful Walmart in existence?
We live here in Fort Morgan. We got ourselves a Walmart with a garden center.
Okay, but compare our Walmart to that even smaller town.
If you're Walmart, you're gonna want to put up a pretty picture. You're not gonna want to paint a picture of a small town.
I'm just saying, it is like the way they did that long, like a couple beat shot of just the front of it, beautiful, and then following him around for no kind of really important reason to show all these super clean, beautiful, sterling white aisles.
Oh,
this does not exist.
Let them pay the bills with their sponsorship.
Ugh.
For product placement.
I mean, you could have just had them mention Walmart a few little times here and there or whatever, and then purposely being like, "Oh, Baskin Robbins."
That would have been two Stranger Things, though.
Ugh.
Anyway,
it's terrible.
Okay,
come on, you have. This is terrible.
I liked the scene in Walmart. I enjoyed it.
I see. I'm battling against a fanboy. You cannot argue against emotion in these types of things, folks. This is the problem.
Oh no. Okay, so obviously the terror dog tracks him down and possesses him, and what happens is, so the reason why Gozer has never been able to escape is because Egon Spengler rigged up proton packs around the maw of the opening at the mine. And so McKenna Grace and all of them, they go and they see that, and they discover why Egon Spengler abandoned his friends, what he sacrificed to make sure that the end of the world didn't come.
Yep.
And so what you then have is you have Gary Gruberson, as possessed as he is, he goes and he destroys the protection grid.
Yes.
And then Gozer is alive. And the best part about this is Shandor has been kept in like a sealed thing. And it's actually J. Jonah Jameson's, who plays him in the Spider-Man movies. I should know this off the top of my hand.
Yeah, I know this actor too because he's fantastic in just about every role he's given.
Yep. J.K. Simmons, there it is. Yeah. Took us a minute. You'd think us nerds would know. Anyway, so J.K. Simmons is playing that character, and like Eva, like when they're there originally, he starts to come alive when the creatures are coming out of the pit.
Yeah, the gate is trying to open or whatever.
And then it gets shut down, and then he dies again. And so then when Paul Rudd short circuits it as the terror dog, Gozer comes out, and Igor Shandor wakes up, and he says, "Oh, I have welcomed you back," and then Gozer just rips.
We can rule together.
Gozer just rips him in half.
Yeah, that's great.
It's kind of funny, like the fragility of belief in something that you don't understand.
Yeah,
and that you don't have the understanding of how powerful it is, because Igor Shandor never knew Gozer.
Yeah,
he knew the predictions, but he never met Gozer, and so his it's just
especially like they describe her Gozer because it's an it, not a he or a she. It's an it. In the first movie, Destructor and all this kind of stuff, whatever. This is nothing good.
Yeah.
Why would you think you could negotiate with this?
Well, Igor Shandor,
but he's just a nutty cultist man.
Yep.
So
he'll believe anything you say for $1 or $2. So they escape. But here's the cool part. So they bring the Ecto-1 to the mine. And the terror dogs have ascended the throne, and Gozer is sitting on the throne, and it's happening. The throne room has been revealed.
The ghosts are released. All hell is breaking loose. The town is losing its mind. But they go, and what they do, which I love this little moment, is they get the RC car trap, and they roll it under one of the terror dogs. Yeah, that was good.
And so McKenna Grace tells like 5 dad jokes.
Oh, yeah, that's terrible.
I loved it.
Well, the thing is, when the original Ghostbusters engage Gozer, Gozer starts making her questions and demands. Yeah. In this case, Gozer just kind of stares at this girl. And I was kind of like, well, Gozer should have been like dropping the questions.
But
something.
What if the question, because what if Gozer's used to dealing with adults? What if Gozer's just confused by this 12-year-old girl showing up and doing
what does
dad
Gozer
jokes?
care? We just established Gozer would just rip someone who worshipped her
because
in half.
he was right up close to her. But McKenna just kind of walks in and starts kind of going, did you hear that? And again, Gozer knows that they can destroy McKenna Grace or anybody that comes in. So maybe she's just playing with McKenna Grace. Maybe it's just kind of like a cat.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is like Gozer should have said something,
right?
Mentioned something. Like they should have had that little bit of engagement. To be like, okay, I'm puzzling out what is this little insignificant ant doing here, yakking at me when I just woke up in this new universe, new dimension.
It's a fair point. I'll allow it.
So it's like it's just a little weak point.
Right.
Remember, as I established in the beginning, I like this movie.
Yeah.
It's just it could have been better in certain parts.
Okay.
Just polish it off.
That's fair enough.
And this is one of those moments where it's like, polish this off.
Okay.
Gozer will engage.
Yeah, but they don't at this point.
Gozer just sits there.
Interesting. So I agree. I will grant you that as a writer and as a language arts teacher. So they hit the trap. They trap one of the ghosts, one of the terror dogs, and they take off.
Oh yeah.
And they are running against time to get back to the farm. And there's some give and take where they almost lose the trap, but then they get the trap inside, and they get back to the farmhouse. And this is where the fun really begins.
The ending scene. But before we get this, can I back it up a little bit?
You may back the truck up
because I just want you to because you should agree with me on this.
Oh boy!
All right, we established in 1984.
Yes.
When the bad guys and all this kind of stuff is ramping up, whatever happens, ghosts are popping up.
Yep.
We get that beautiful montage where they're capturing all kinds of ghosts, right? And fighting the ghosts.
Yep.
And that's how they get known.
Yep.
In this scene where the same type of thing is happening, the only ghosts we really see get engaged is Muncher. And the podcast makes the comment about, oh yeah, this is the like there's more dead people here than alive.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, okay, where's our build up to more ghosts? There should have been some more ghosts things happening before we entered into our final confrontation.
I wonder if when they sealed up Gozer, if that pulled them all back into the breach.
I don't know. But
it's
I'm
not
just saying
explained.
It's like it doesn't because we do have Muncher that gets out somehow.
Yeah. And
so
he's
it's
still
like
out
you
there.
do see the other terror dogs do get out somehow.
Yeah.
So it's like there should have been some more ghostly things that happened. There should have been just a few more. Throw them in there.
Yeah.
Have the townspeople get a little terrorized by this stuff.
Yeah.
And then we go into our final kind of confrontation thing. Because, I mean, the first movie was smart enough to give us that montage of, they're busy. There's other things happening.
Right.
We could have just had a montage of people getting terrorized.
Yeah. We have a little bit of it.
I mean, you do briefly, but it's like they're already heading towards the heroes are already in motion towards the end at that point.
Gotcha.
Where it's kind of like, oh, there's that miner at the counter that is a copy of the taxi driver from the first one, that kind of thing. But it's like, well, there should have been other miners and stuff, kind of.
Okay.
I mean, especially when the podcast makes that really important point. There's more dead people here than alive.
Yeah.
Because Shandor probably just murdered tons of miners in that mine to get his girders to build the giant antenna. So it's one of those things where it's just like,
something missing.
So that's one of those things. Like I said, I like the movie,
but
you could have polished this off a little more to stay static with what you were doing.
Okay, that's fair. I'll allow it. Objection sustained, as it were.
Folks, I am cracking those fanboy glasses so good because he knows he has to give in to the logic here. No, I
reject your reality and insert my own.
Yeah.
I like living in my little bubble of fandom where nostalgia is the way of life.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of nostalgia, we get to the end and we get a moment that legitimately I teared up at. So you have the fight against Gozer. The guys return.
Yep.
All they're back, and they try and cross the streams. Gozer is smart enough. I'll make the argument that Gozer was remembered at least minimally what had been done to her before.
We already talked about this. I know. I'm right, and you know it.
I resist. I refuse. I do not yield. You shall not pass, as Gandalf was known to say. So unties the streams, which sends the three originals back in the thing. What's lovely is they are all in character. It is. They are absolutely not phoning it in. These are the characters that we've known and loved for so long, for 30 plus years. So we get that, and
I mean, you get that feeling with Venkman's opening line, which comes from ADR, where he's off screen, because it's like, "Hey, flat top."
Yeah,
it's kind of perfect.
Yeah, it's brilliant. So that happens. Then Phoebe goes, and the Stay Puft little marshmallows start messing with the Ecto-1 electricity so that Trevor can't fire his thing.
Yeah.
Podcast finally gets that under control. There's a whole bunch of hijinks that happen. The first moment that brings me joy is having the 3 originals back.
Oh yeah.
I was just.
I
like,
mean, I know. I'm with you. I teared up too.
Yeah. But here's where the tears really started for me.
Oh yeah.
So Phoebe fires off, and she's something. I would theorize that there's a Spengler, perhaps a supernatural piece of the Spengler family line, because she's able to do more against Gozer than any of them.
Mm-hmm.
But she can't fully beat him. She needs help.
Yep.
And so that's when others join in. And
Remember, she's like Gozer has the grip on her stream and
Right.
is kind of wrangling her instead of the other way around.
Yeah.
And then the hand.
So they did this brilliantly through some serious using footage of him from the other 2 Ghostbusters. They bring Egon Spengler back in full corporeal form, and like my throat, like my eyes, it was they did it brilliantly.
Mm-hmm.
It looked like an older Harold Ramis,
Mm-hmm.
and he doesn't speak.
Well, not older Harold Ramis. We saw what he looked like older.
Yeah.
He turned into a big chunky man with a nice big old bushy beard and
Yeah.
crazy. But they made an older Egon.
Egon Spengler, yeah. To that point, you are right, and it is he's holding onto her gun and helping her.
Yeah.
And so then the 3 others get up and join in, and Egon Spengler stands beside them.
Yep. I mean, that's the thing we've been waiting, like the fans.
Yeah, for
We've been
30
waiting.
years.
Yeah.
30 years for, and it is
What should have happened if
Yeah.
not for Bill Murray?
I know, good old Bill Murray. But here's the beautiful thing: is each character turns to look at him.
Yeah, acknowledges him.
And goes, and I think Bill Murray says, I wondered when you'd turn up. And so there's moments where that, and so they're all shooting at it, and then Finn realizes, well, we need, and she tries to press, like Callie hits the button.
Yeah,
it doesn't
it's not
work.
working.
And Trevor realizes, I need to supercharge it.
Yep.
This is all I know how to do. And it works.
Yeah.
So Gozer and his minions and everyone, and there's like 50 some traps in that dirt farm.
Yeah, we don't know how many, but there's a ton down there.
I think the cool my theory is that when those traps open, it takes Gozer into pieces.
That's kind of what I was thinking too. Like I was gonna ask you, like, what do you think happened? Because Gozer doesn't go into one.
No, he goes into several. Like 5.
Yeah.
And so I think what Egon Spengler's idea was, I'm going to pull Gozer apart.
Yeah.
And so no matter how many traps are opened, like if one opens, there's only a piece of Gozer, and it can't recorporalize until all of him is apart.
Yeah.
So you could theorize that he's divided into 50 pieces.
Yeah. Or how many traps are there? Just we shredded Gozer.
Yeah. And the gatekeeper and the keymaster are divided
as well.
Yeah,
because they're on that field.
Yep. And so the movie that ends, and then you get the next tear-inducing scene, which is the guys get to say goodbye to Spengler.
Yeah.
And then Trevor gets to say goodbye, and then Phoebe. Oh, that was a hard one for me to watch. And just like her realization, like she hugs him.
Yeah.
And like that moment of like connection. And then Callie gets her moment. And people will be like, oh, it's corny. Oh, it's stupid. I love that moment because you did get the sense that she discovered his attention to her in his downstairs lab.
Yeah.
She found all the photos, and she even realized as the lights were moving that he was moving. There was an Egon Spengler.
Well, the thing is, that's where I had a little bit issue with that scene.
Yeah.
Where like, we established that she's not really into the ghosty whatever things like that, and then that starts happening suddenly on her.
Yeah.
She should have freaked out. There should have been a freak out moment for her character from what we established with her character.
Maybe.
There should have been a freak out moment with her.
Well, it didn't. She didn't have a long time to freak out because then the Pterodog shows up.
Well, I mean, like I said, we kind of got her character should have been a little more.
Yeah, a little more punch.
Yeah.
So she hugs Egon,
which is a shame because that actress was good.
Yeah, no, Callie's like legit. She's a strong actress. She portrays that role really well. She hugs Egon, and then Egon fades away into the ether. And then it's like, okay, well, let's go in the house.
And you
have
got
some
that for Harold, and then
for
they
Harold. That was a final sucker punch, because it wasn't for Harold Ramis, it was for Harold, because that for them was important. I mean, between the Reitmans and the other three, like they had a connection to that man, and that was their dedication to him. So what is interesting is that Egon Spengler's ghost was able to stick around.
Yeah. See, I thought it went on a little too long.
I don't think
that
so.
scene, because it's like everybody suddenly gets their like unique little individual moment with him when he can't really show up before.
Yeah.
I think it should have been a great moment. It would have been a great moment to have him help them as he did.
Yeah.
But that's like great effort on his part, because remember, we don't see him before.
Yeah.
And then it's like this is him exerting like huge effort to appear and like have the effects that he does, and just like he should have been disappeared a little faster instead of everybody getting their moment.
But it also speaks...
I mean, it speaks to the fanboys.
No,
unless
but it
you
also
have that
speaks...
emotional...
It speaks to Spengler and his control and understanding of science, is that he knows how to hold on. He knows how much time... Like, he has extraordinary control.
You can't go that way.
Why?
Because there's no scientific thing holding him there.
There could be. We just don't know about it.
That's the thing, is like there should have been something that was holding him there, a gadget, because that's what's Egon's character's wrapped up in.
Right.
So there should have been something that allowed him to project,
could have been
something like that.
Right.
Instead, we're in that mystical, spiritual thing.
But they didn't establish any rules for ghosts in 1 or 2 about how ghosts stay around. That rule has never been established. So to that end, he is a unique ghost because he can choose.
Well, the other thing too is if you like, he should have been sucked into a trap too. They were on the field.
But what if he has control?
See, that's one of those things. Like
there are no rules with Egon Spengler. There are no rules with how his corporeal creation works, and I think that's a beautiful thing, because again, you do too much rules, you do too much backstory, you do too much front loading, you run the risk of cheapening the movie. But if you don't do enough, then you have the questions like, well, how does it work? It's like, well, it just works. And I think that's the part we're going to have to accept with Egon Spengler's
this is just the way they decided to let it end.
Yes.
Where it's just kind of like, we need to mend all the fences and make it all right. Yeah. Where it's kind of like, I'm kind of against that, where it's kind of like, no, you can leave some things hanging out there.
Well, and speaking of leaving things hanging out there, the second credit sequence ends with Ernie Hudson coming back to the firehouse with a stack of papers in his hand, meaning he's purchased it. And the Ecto-1 drives back into the firehouse, and then we get a shot of the containment unit flashing red.
Yeah, so that kind of like is leading us to believe they might do more. But the thing is, the same as they did that with the 2016.
But they didn't have they didn't have the folks. They didn't have the people behind that they had behind this one. Yeah, you have people who have I don't want to say understanding, because that would suggest that the 2016 crew didn't, but they have an understanding of the property and of the rules and of what makes a good Ghostbusters film and how that works. So overall, we're at the 56-minute mark.
No, this is a good review. I mean, this is one whole episode itself. We did pretty good here.
I agree. So this is the recommendation I can say is that on the list of Ghostbusters movies, top list of all of them so far, I would say Ghostbusters is number 1. Yep. I would say Afterlife is number 2. Yep. Ghostbusters 2, and then down at the bottom, number 4, 2016, because it can't go any lower because there's no other Ghostbusters movies to put on that list.
No, I agree with that list 100%.
Yeah, and I think for you out there, if you're wondering, if you're like, hey, should I see it? Well, first of all, rent Ghostbusters or buy it. Yeah. And watch it and enjoy.
I think, unfortunately, right now is either you have to rent it to get it, which is a shame. They should have done free viewing because the Afterlife was out there. They should have just sucked it up and been like, here, everybody watch it. Yeah. Catch up to what's going on. Well, instead it's behind like a paywall.
Capitalism. Yeah. You can buy it on Amazon Prime. You can rent it on YouTube, I think. So check that out. Enjoy it for what it is, which is 80s fantastic movie. Watch 2. We'll get our episode up on 2, probably out in the next couple episodes. But yeah, Afterlife is a touching tribute. Because we'll have to admit,
it's like we did this one in the episode on the first one in the 2016, because the first one, 2016, kind of whatever. They're kind of together. 2 is going to be us more making fun of Ghostbusters instead of taking it more seriously, because it's kind of what happened with 2, which is regretful. Yeah, but it's kind of what happened.
It's kind of what happens with sequels sometimes. It's always, Ghostbusters 2, Electric Boogaloo. They get lost on the way to the plot. All right, so for me, Afterlife, I guess we're going to rate it out of 10. I'm going to say 9 out of 10, just because it does fan service well. It doesn't do fan service cheaply. It doesn't do the nostalgia cheaply. For me, my perspective, of course.
Yeah, this is him.
James is very keen to make sure that's known. And it does tell a good story, and it features strong actors, some more than others. And it really does do its thing as a Ghostbusters movie. We don't get the real theme song until the end with the Ecto-1 going back to New York. But it's a welcome addition to the Ghostbusters fandom, into the Ghostbusters mythology. And my hope and my dream is that this 9 out of 10 movie inspires a sequel or even 2 here in the future. James, what do you think?
That we need to be out of class, sir.
Class dismissed.
Class dismissed. For me, like, I'm not as much as a fanboy as you are, but I did enjoy this movie. Like, my ratings are going to be tougher on things, folks.
That's okay.
So it's just because of the way I think about stuff. So I actually sit this at maybe like an 8 out of 10. Maybe.
Okay, I'll allow that.
I won't go lower because it was pretty good.
Okay.
I mean, I could poke more holes and maybe do like 7.5, 8, somewhere in there.
Oh, come off it.
That's what I give it. Because, I mean, it does, I think it relies too heavily on the first one and callbacks to it.
Yeah.
When it shouldn't have. It should put more separation in there and, like, just glossed over some of those points that were kind of important for how it folded out.
Okay.
And that's it. I mean, other than that, that's all I got to say. Because I'm not a big fanboy, but I'm still saying it's like, on my scale, that means it's a go watch.
Okay.
It's still a good movie. You'll enjoy it.
On our next episode, we'll define our scales and what they mean. Because there's always a definition of like, okay, what does an 8 out of 10 mean? What does 7 out of 10 mean?
I think it's really hard to actually qualify those types of things. It's just how you feel and think about it.
Oh.
So.
I'll detail my review.
You can rate each one of your stars for how it is. I won't.
There's a complex mathematical calculation attached to each. There's an average
Well, that's
law.
the way you're talking about your scale, sir. For me, I'm just going like, this is how I feel about it. And like 10s, I don't have very many 10 movies.
Yeah.
I'm 100% honest with that.
I would put Serendipity at my 9 out of 10 list. It's a romantic comedy. John Cusack, Kate Beckinsale.
Yeah, I was about to say it's been a while since I've seen that movie.
We'll have to put together our list of top 10s. We'll do an episode about our top 10 movies or something, and then run through a brief like defense of them, and then see if we can find some things to agree on.
Oh,
and
you're
gonna
laugh at some of the movies I consider high.
Give us a preview. Give us your one.
The Blues Brothers.
Oh my God, that's an amazing movie.
Yeah, I know.
Are you
right?
kidding me? That's like a 9.5 out of 10. Actually,
know,
no,
right?
it's a 10 out of 10.
That's a 10 out of 10.
Because Carrie Fisher is the homicidal girlfriend.
It is magnificent.
And it is absolutely like she doesn't even kill him, but she comes so close. John Candy as the Orange Whip. Anybody want an Orange Whip?
Orange Whip, yeah. Like that movie is magnificent.
They destroy the most cars of any movie up until that point, and I think the record still holds. Blues Brothers 2000 was a disaster and an abomination.
Yeah, it was a train wreck. Shouldn't have happened.
Maybe we'll dig into
but
some of those.
Blues Brothers is probably one of my top movies.
Okay.
Patton?
I have not seen Patton.
You haven't seen Patton?
I know. It's a crime against
George C.
humanity.
Scott? You should just watch Patton
I'll put it on my list. Patton.
I mean, it's a war movie, whatever. It's not really nerdy in any respect, but it's just George C. Scott puts on an amazing show in that whole movie.
I'll put it on my list.
Blazing Saddles, which we obviously can't cover in this show.
Nope, can't do that.
But that one is up there.
It's a Mel Brooks film. It's one of his very legendary films. He's actually making History of the World Part 2 coming up here in a little bit.
Yeah, I heard a rumor about that, but I didn't hear anything else. So I was kind of like, "What's going on?"
I don't know.
I was like,
"It's the chatter."
Is he dusting it off?
They're reinventing everything that's been gone for a while and bringing it back because they can't come with anything original.
That's the thing that's kind of driving me against really being upset with movie studios and stuff right now. Is like they're relying too much on the past. They're too afraid to do anything new. So you have rare like independent studios branching out with like A24 and doing the weirder stuff that's good. Yeah. But it's like our big studios are just being like, we just need money. Right. What can we flog to bit money out of it? And it's kind of like, stop. Yeah. Stop it. Yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, on that uplifting cliffhanger.
Yeah, sorry, folks.
we will take apart Ghostbusters 2 in our next episode, and then we have plans for other episodes and other fandoms as well down the pipe. So stick around, and we'll see you on the next one. My name is Aaron.
My name is James.
This has been Nerds by Screenlight.
Take care, everybody.
We'll see you on the next one. You've been listening to the Nerds by Screenlight podcast, presented by Create at Morgan Productions, located in Fort Morgan, Colorado, USA. For more information on our production house, other podcasts hosted here, and further details, please visit www.createatmorgan.org. You can find us on Twitter at the handle CreateAtMorgan. Create at Morgan is a school club at Lincoln High School, our alternative education campus in Morgan County. Our sponsor is Aaron DeLay, a language arts teacher at Lincoln. Send any feedback to adelayedteacher@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to our podcast.